Hey guys, it's Russell back, and on today's video I'm going to be asking for your help. Behind me is my 98 Jetta Tdi that is kicking my butt. The car has 378,000 miles on it. I've owned it since it was brand spanking new. Never had a problem with this car until now, and I can't figure it out. The car's been down for about 2 months. You guys have probably been seeing a couple updates that I've put in from time to time on the Mercedes videos, and maybe the injection pump removal video, but I need help. I cannot figure this one out. I know a lot about diesels. I'm not a know-it-all by any means, and I need help. Somebody out there has an idea or knows what this problem is, I know. So I'm going to run over exactly in this video exactly what I've done up to this point in the testing and stuff I've done. So please watch the video completely, and if you have somebody that may know about this, if you may know, just put it in the comments, and because you really need to watch it all the way through, because you may say we'll do this, and later on in the video I already talked about what I did. So let me give you the quick background. For about a month, when I would crank the car up in the morning, it was really hard to start. It would crank fine, it just took 15 or 20 seconds before it would fire over. I noticed that the front head seal was leaking, and that's usually indicative of losing its prime. So I got the O-ring kit from, I believe it was Diesel Geek, fixed that O-ring. It cured the problem with the leaking completely, but still in the morning, after it sat about 8 or 10 hours, it was really 15-20 seconds of cranking before it would fire. So now I'm thinking glow plugs. Took all the glow plugs out, ohmed them all out, even tested them with battery jumpers, and the glow plugs are relatively new. They're all ohmed out perfect. Did a compression test. Compression is almost new in all the cylinders. So ruled that out. I replaced relay 109. Usually if you turn the key on and you don't have a glow plug light illuminate, relay 109 could be the culprit. That wasn't the case, but I'm like, it's cheap, let me try it. No effect. So after kind of living with this up until now, I was like, well, maybe there's something in the fuel system from the fuel filter back to the tank. Maybe there's some air, some sludge, some algae, something in there. So I disconnected the fuel tank right here at the fuel filter, put a clear bottle with clear lines, which you'll see in a minute, to eliminate anything from the fuel filter back to the tank. And I wanted to see what was happening as the pump was drawing fuel in. There's a problem. It's not drawing any fuel in, or it's very, very weak. So I'm like, all right. So I started doing some research on the internet, and I found a Bosch, certified Bosch repair shop in Texas that rebuilds tons and tons of these Volkswagen pumps. They're actually a Volkswagen authorized rebuilder. So I talked to them probably about an hour and a half over several phone conversations, and we both determined after my testing that it probably was the pump. The pump itself has had 320,000 miles on it, and I was actually talking to the guy that rebuilds the pumps, and he said that's phenomenal for not being rebuilt. One other thing, I had also made sure that the timing was dead on. I've got the Volkswagen tools. I've done 6 timing belt jobs myself on this car, and I have the proper tools to do the timing belt, and everything was perfectly in line. So I took the pump off, sent it to Texas, had it rebuilt. He tore the pump down and said, yeah, you had a problem inside the pump. The vanes, there's some vanes in there that acts like a lift pump that draws the fuel from the tank through the filter and then primes the pump. He said those were really, really worn and was not really drawing anything, and that's already what I knew from the testing I've done watching the fuel not flowing out of the filter into the pump. So I got the pump back, and they did a complete rebuild on the pump. He said the pump's drawing good. It's, you know, it's back to factory specs. I didn't have it modified. It just said, you know, just rebuild it back to factory specs. So I put the pump back on the car, got everything lined up, new timing belt, went ahead and did the whole, you know, made sure everything was perfectly same exact thing. Crank and crank and crank and crank. It will not start, period. I can start it with starting fluid and it'll fire. Obviously, that's not what you want to do because you can blow your blow your glow plug tips off. But it does fire over that way. It won't keep running. There's no codes at all that have been thrown on the check engine light at all. It never had any codes thrown since it's having this problem. So I need you guys' help. I've eliminated everything. Brand new fuel filter, everything. I took the hook, my little auxiliary tank back up directly to the pump to eliminate, again, any possibility that there was anything from the fuel filter back, you know, air, sludge, sediment, whatever. And I wanted to see how well the pump is drawing fuel in, and it's drawing it like it's supposed to, like a new pump would, and it's pushing the return fuel out. Obviously, of course, I bled the injector lines and cracking them all open. There's super amount of heavy fuel coming out of there, so the pump's making good pressure. Called him up again and said, look, I can't figure this out. And he's like, well, you've got good compression, okay, because the engine needs good compression, it needs good fuel and air, and it needs fire, which in this case is the compression. He said, well, the only other thing it could be that he can think of is the timing's jacked up. And I'm like, well, everything lines up absolutely perfectly. And he said, well, maybe the cog on the crank that the timing belt rides on, something's amiss. All right, on the Volkswagen, it doesn't use a Woodruff key. It uses, there's a flat spot on the camshaft, or on the crankshaft, that the pulley, the timing belt cog can only go on one way. Now I know that if the pulley had shifted somehow, if it, you know, that could mess the timing up and it wouldn't fire over. So I'm going to check that today. I'm going to do a video for you guys, just hopefully you can see, maybe you're seeing something, maybe I'm missing something. I'm trying to think anything else I've done. Oh, of course I checked the cam. When I had everything off, the cam looked perfect. I checked the buckets. I'm going to recheck the valve lash again. I don't know why this is not firing over. I've even tried to start it with the electrical connectors off the pump because I had heard somebody had a problem with the advanced solenoid. Some people call it a cold start solenoid, and it would run without that. Still no effect. It just doesn't want to crank, or it just doesn't want to start. So please, I need you guys' help. I don't know where to go. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to do a video. I'm going to show you guys it starting, so just so I can have a record of it too, and then I'll show you the tailpipe, and then we'll get a shot of the dash, and then I'm going to go and rip the timing, everything apart, check the cog. But please, if you know somebody that is really good with these TDIs, this really weird problem, then if you could share the video, forward it to them, whatever, because I don't want to get rid of the car. I know it's something small, something simple. The car runs great. It's got phenomenal compression on it, even with, it's got 378,000 miles. So I want to get this thing fixed, and that way, if there's ever somebody else having this problem, you can see. So with that being said, I'm going to get the camera set up and let you guys have a shot seeing that the car is cranking. Oh, also, my battery was about 4 years old. I had a diehard AGM. I switched back to a group. I think this is a group 94, but it does have 80 amp hours. He had also said that he had a Beetle TDI that had a problem and some weird electrical problem, but I switched the battery out. It's a brand new AC Delco. It's like 800 cold cranking amps, and yeah, and it's an 80 amp hour battery, which is the spec battery that Volkswagen wants to have in these TDIs. So anyway, let's crank. guys can watch while I crank it over. I tell you what, gosh, this seat is so much more comfortable than that Mercedes. I really want to get this car back on the road. All right, so turn the key, glow plug light goes on, and then back out. Try it again. Okay. Now I'll show you the illumination lights that are coming on in the dash when I do this. All right, so I have a scan gauge that I've had on this car for years and years. Okay, no codes. So I'm going to, let me see. Okay, glow plug light goes on and off like it's supposed to. Nothing. So let's look at the back and see what smoke, if any, is coming out of the tailpipe. All right, here we go. Now, even though the pump is rebuilt, I can tell you that some people may say your fuel stop solenoid may not be clicking on. So I even, as far as a diagnostic point, I even have run a jumper from my positive battery terminal to the fuel stop solenoid, and that does not have any effect either. It is working properly, but I did that test also, and it has no effect on it. So let me show you guys real quick. I basically disconnected. I have this is my gas tank right now, all right, and I've got it running through here, running through a filter, and then going directly into the pump, and then it comes out of the pump and goes into the filter and then into my tank, my little tank again. So I did this so I could see when I first started it how long, if this was bleeding out, if it was, you know, bleeding down, if there's excessive bubbles, and that is 100% acceptable right there. So I don't know. So that eliminates the possibility that there's anything causing the no start with anything from the filter back all the way to the tank. I don't know, guys. There's only two electrical connections. One of them is here and the other one is right here. I've even tried to start it with that one disconnected and that one plugged in, with that one disconnected and that one plugged in, both of them disconnected. It doesn't matter. I have taken the cold, the glow plug or the temperature sensor and disconnected it, which keeps the glow plugs on, well, pretty much the whole time, because it thinks it's like 0 degrees. That has no effect on it. There's absolutely no leaking on this rebuilt pump anywhere. The lines, of course, have been bled. It's got new return lines. I don't know what else to say. No codes. New air filter. Of course, new timing belt. I don't know, guys. I need help. Somebody help me. So I'm gonna recheck the timing, and then I'm gonna report back, and then I'll probably upload this video. All right, so I ripped everything apart. I still have the timing belt on there, and I have the pump locked with the proper holding pin. And the mark that I made, just as a reference, on the crank lines up if you look at it at the right angle. Now that's just my general mark. That is not how you do set it. I have got the proper cam leveling tool that is shimmed equally on both sides. And look what I found. Alright, so what you don't see in there, I don't know if the light's showing it, my timing mark. It's very interesting. So originally, what I did just a few minutes ago, let me get the autofocus back on, is I turned the engine over until the pointer lined up with the mark on the flywheel. Of course, this goes in, you know, and this is not the most precise thing, but this is how the Volkswagen manual says to do it. But I couldn't get the cam plate in. So I rotated the engine over until I could get the cam plate in and get it shimmed equally on both sides, and the mark should line up just like it did when I installed it, and it doesn't. So I'm going to take the timing belt off and look at the cog down here. I don't know if the cog is walking on the camshaft a little bit. It doesn't have to move but a fraction of a degree for it to throw that off a tooth. Yeah, so I'll let you guys know what I find. Okay, so I redid the timing belt job again. Made sure that everything was set perfectly. Pump pinned. Tensioners perfectly set where it's supposed to be. The cam levels perfectly fine. And I have plenty of, let's see if I can actually show this time. See the timing mark is right where it's supposed to be. And I've cranked and cranked and cranked and cranked this like this, and nothing. I don't know. I am at a loss, guys. I do not know what to do now. There's no reason that this should not start. I know someone's gonna ask, somebody have asked before if I've got the VAGCOM on a laptop, but in order to do 99% of everything, the engine has to be running. And the scan gauge that I have reads OBD2 codes that it throws, and of course there's no codes. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and upload this video. If you know something I'm missing, if you're saying, hey, you should have checked this, you should have done this, you should have done that. This cog right here is, why is this so dark? The cog right here is perfectly, it's tight on the crank. Now here's the question. This is a question. You know, this engine's probably turned over several hundred revolutions of me cranking after doing the timing belt, and it's still perfectly fine. Is it possible, and that thing is tight as a drum, is it possible that thing could, well, I'm just thinking out loud, if the timing mark on the flywheel, that's not going to change. So as long as that's lined up, you know, there's no mark on that cog. But is the cog moving? And I don't think it is, but somebody tell me. Maybe I have read on some forums that some people's cogs have shifted, but you know, this thing had never gotten running, and I've turned it over and over and over and over and over, and it's still exactly where it should be. I don't think that's the problem, but tell me what I'm missing, guys. Please help me. Thank you in advance. The Jetta thanks you.